A buildup of Russian forces along the border with Ukraine is reportedly setting off alarms for the U.S. and its allies. According to the New York Times, analysts say the mobilization by the Kremlin is intended to send a message to world leaders, adding the move is, quote, increasingly seen as an early foreign policy test for the Biden administration, which just hit Moscow with a new round of sanctions. In the past month, Russia has amassed its largest military presence in the region in nearly 7 years, when the country forcibly annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. The U.S. and its allies are now monitoring the situation as they try to determine whether the Kremlin is preparing to escalate matters further. New York Times reporter Andrew Kramer has been covering this story from the ground. He joins me now from Moscow. Andrew, welcome. Thanks very much for being with us. You have witnessed this military buildup firsthand. What are you seeing exactly, and what are locals saying?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me on. I traveled to southern Russia a week ago, and this is a very visible buildup. You can see off of public roads, trucks parked in the forest. You see tents. So there's really been no attempt to make this a secretive military operation. Also, quite a few videos have appeared online in Russia showing tanks, showing self-propelled artillery and other weapons moving on trains or moving on flatbed trucks in different parts of Russia. And as you can see from some of the pictures you've been showing in your show, these are very easily seen shows of force. You have these sort of things happening beside public roads and in the middle of towns even.
So what might be Russia's motivation for carrying out this military buildup in such a public way?
Well, some of the theories are that this is an early test of the Biden administration, really sort of asking the question of how they'll react to this buildup, what moves they'll take in relation to Ukraine. Another idea is that this is pressure being applied on Ukraine, trying to force Ukraine to soften its stance in settlement negotiations over the eastern Ukraine conflict.
Is there a sense, Andrew, what the end game is now? Russia has sent forces into neighboring Georgia, forcibly annexed Ukrainian territory in the Crimean Peninsula back in 2014. Is it clear now what Vladimir Putin is trying to accomplish?
No, it's not. And there's, I think, an intentional ambiguity in what this buildup means. Some of the ideas of perhaps moves in the near future would be to send Russian troops into Ukraine as peacekeepers, or to make a small advance for strategic gain in the south of Ukraine to obtain water canals that supply Crimea. Both of these would be a very dramatic escalation in the Ukraine conflict and would certainly result in Western sanctions. Longer term, Russia has declared a sphere of influence in this region, and it assumes that former Soviet states are within that sphere of influence, and in this case, it is using military force to really pressure Ukraine and the West in relation to settlement talks, in relation to internal politics in Ukraine as well.
Well, Ukraine is an ally, not a member of NATO. Could we, though, see NATO involvement, and what would that look like?
Well, it doesn't seem likely that NATO would have any direct involvement. The Obama administration early in the Ukraine crisis said there was no role militarily for the United States in the conflict. And I don't think that that's changed significantly. NATO has made diplomatic statements, and the U.S. has increased its troop forces in Germany, but that's quite a ways from the conflict in eastern Ukraine. So I think NATO's role would be limited to a diplomatic role in this case.
All right. Well, if this is indeed a test of the Biden administration, we'll wait to see what the administration's response is. Andrew Kramer. Andrew, thank you very much.